Marfoogle TV going live in 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Let's get right into it. We, of course, have satellite images reveal Trump's dilemma over the Iran nuclear complex. They say that satellite images show atomic installations were only grazed by this, by these explosions. And, of course, they said damage to Iran's central enrichment facility in Natanz, located 300 kilometers south of Tehran, is primarily limited to electricity switchyards and transformers, based on pictures from June 17th. While those installations are critical, experts say that they can be repaired within months. It says, quote, they did damage but left a lot intact. Robert Kelly, former inspector of the IAEA, or the Atomic Energy Agency, who previously ran the U.S. government's premier satellite imagery labs. The images provided by the U.S. Planet Labs, PBC, analyzed by Kelly, underscore the wide margin of error confronting U.S. military planners who are deciding whether to enter the conflict. This to me says there's a whole lot being said right now, but this is, you have fake BS going out, because honestly, they're saying that they're deciding or whether they're going to get into this conflict or not. Essentially, they are looking at this and they are giving us many, many reasons why we need to go in and absolutely wipe them off the map. Now, you guys probably have heard my opinion over this week. Again, I think I've actually had my opinion changed multiple times about whether or not we should wipe out Iran. But again, this is something that is going to get a whole lot bigger, a whole lot faster, so stay tuned. We've got a lot to go over tonight. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, there's actually kind of an interesting thing here. It shows you essentially the different stages and the different things that you need to make the nuclear, nuclear weapons in general, but also the kind of different areas and the different facilities inside these, right? So for Natanz, to give an example, right, they hit the enrichment and they hit the centrifuge assembly. It looks like this shows struck by Israel between June 14th and the 18th. But see, if you go over to Karaj, you'll see reactor under construction, waste. On these, I wonder, again, does that mean that the waste and the power reactors and the mining and everything else in this facility is good? So they could combine essentially multiple different locations and still get the same result. They're sort of saying, hey, they got this, but they left it to where it can not only be repaired shortly, where any country that, this is their top priority, they're going to fix it right away and just get back up and running. They're making an argument where they need a shock and awe type of thing. That's my opinion, just off my gut feeling, that they need to take out absolutely everything all at once. And if we see that, we are most definitely going to see a situation where if you're an ally of Iran, it would be kind of crazy if you didn't jump in at that point. So it's getting very, very intense. All right, let's bring my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine. Adam, it seems to me like there's one side of the story, which is Israel has tried to paint a picture to our president that they've made such great progress that he ought to jump in at this point, because look at how easily they went in and took out Iran. And the flip side is that maybe not. Maybe they just, as they're saying here, just sort of scratch the surface. And while certainly it's made it difficult for them to retaliate, or not that, because they have, but there's a war of attrition between missiles right now and defensive missiles. But it begs the question if Israel can really be successful without the U.S. doing the work for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, if you look, there's out of the 9 they have listed here, and I don't know what all of the capabilities, because it looks like you don't have all of it listed. But if there are 9 facilities doing this kind of stuff, and out of the 9, there were 2 which only hit 2 out of the 6 or 7 kind of operations going on there, and then 1 had the reactor. Again, this was the one we talked about yesterday, I believe, the one that was the precision missile. You have 5 out of like 80 locations that need to be actually hit. And, is that something where, they barely scratch the surface, or, is this accurate, So with that being said, yeah, Dex, I agree. It says like, hey, we could just go in there and take them out. It says to me that they're kind of saying, hey, with the U.S.'s help, we'll just be able to steamroll and we'll be able to regime change and everything else, which makes me think that is the overall plan, but that's not taking into account all of the allies, right? Are we going to be able to steamroll this and to regime change? In my opinion, they're going to put the late Shah's son back in and help restore a monarchy, right? Which, again, not everybody agrees with that. But that's what I feel from my gut, and how they're going and how they're putting out Ganda about it. I think that's what is most likely going to happen. But that's also saying that, everybody their allies just lay down and say, yeah, that's too bad. Iran was a good guy. And then Australian Defense Force deployed to the Middle East. You have a lot of alliances, of course, with the U.S. You have the Trilateral Alliance. You have of course, the NATO. Now you have Australia essentially jumping in on this conflict. The Australian Defense Force has deployed personnel and aircraft to the Middle East to assist with the evacuation of Australians stranded in Iran. Foreign Minister Penny Wong confirmed on Friday. So obviously, we have let our allies know, hey, this is about to go down. When you see Australia sending in their defense forces to get Australians out, that's a pretty big deal. So I believe in the next 4 or 5 days, we're probably going to see a massive, massive strike. Everything to me says that this is going to be like a shock and awe type thing. And I really hope it's not. I hope we're wrong. Dex, the Australian Defense Force pulling out their people and going in there. This is one of 7 stories we've covered of different countries going in and trying to get their people out.
Yeah, well, what does it mean that they have to send in defense forces to get them out? Like, we send in cruise ships and airline tickets, and they're talking about both Iran and Israel. But yeah, they're making it very clear that nothing they're doing is to engage in the conflict, but it is their defense forces. It is, they're sending in troops, basically, military equipment and aircraft to use to get people out.
In this picture, you can see her saying, yes, my stylist will split your hair just like this. But again, we'll see. And then we, of course, have Israel-Iran war blow by blow. Maps and graphics reveal locations of every strike so far as the conflict escalates. Dex, do you want to go over this? And I'm going to actually load up the next piece.
Yeah, well, let's look at the image here. I mean, the whole point of this one is the map they've shown, so you can get a really good visual of the country of Iran, but nonetheless, the locations, the amount of strikes in areas across the entire country there that have happened. So obviously, you all know, we've talked about it daily here about the continuing aerial assault that has happened. We're on day 6 or 9 or something like that now. For these strikes, and they just continue to pound different locations. Maybe not so great, as we just said in the first article, as it relates to the nuclear facilities, but obviously taking out missile defense systems, taking out air intercept systems, taking out anything that can relate that. And then if you scroll a little further down, there's an interesting chart about who has been taken out literally from the military, from Salami, who we've talked about, and then below him, Popcore, Mosavi, Bagheri, and Hajade. So that's like what, five out of you know, what's that, nine people there that are in their top leaders. And one of them hadn't been announced yet. So it's actually
Eight.
you know, five out of eight, right? That's a significant, you know, diminishment in their leadership control of the military. So um, that's significant. And another interesting visual here, just so you guys can understand, there, if you go down, there's a map with the country of Iran and these circles around it that show the distances of their munitions, specifically the ones that can hit Israel. That's probably the only location that's relevant right now, outside of Iraq. Sorry, Iraq is relevant because we have U.S. troops there and they continue to threaten us. So there's a handful of missiles that can reach into that zone 2 to 3 area, which would cover the bases in Iraq, where U.S. troops are stationed, and maybe even in Zone 1, for that matter, too. But then obviously the Zone 4 or 5, area 4, really, that gets into Israel. There's only the Garhardi 1 and the Seji 2 that can go that distance.
Yeah, and with this current situation just kind of lighting up every single day, this doesn't even list the other questionable, perishings. There were a bunch of people that perished under questionable circumstances. Some even had situations where you had locals, saying that they may have been poisoned. You, of course, had helicopter crashes take people out. You had all these kind of events that have happened. That doesn't even list any of those. So, this is a much bigger back and forth than people realize. There are operations going on with the Mossad and secret agencies. What is Iran's secret service? Do they have? It's not just the IRGC, right? The IRGC is their guards. What is their secret service? I don't think I've ever talked about them. But they have these ops going at all times. They have, secret assets in place, and they're doing all sorts of chaos. Iran, though, I bet Iran mostly depends on a lot of friends, like Russia and China doing a lot of that stuff for them, but I don't know. And then EMP Shield, if you haven't checked this out, I would highly recommend going and checking one out. Again, if you don't have one of these in your car, if you drive anything newer than a classic Scout, then I would highly recommend looking into whether you need this or not. Again, this is a device that will protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, gas, and solar in the case of the XP, and it will end up protecting you against a Carrington-level event. Again, that is marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, they now have Starlink protection and modem protection, so go check those out as well. And then, of course, you have easy devices that you can just pop right in. Go check them out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right, again, that code MARF will get you $50 off per discount, and it will help our show at the same time. All right, and then we have alarming Fox report says tactical nukes not off the table for Trump's Iran response. We talk about this stuff every day, and it gets so old, and it gets burnt into your head. It's like, but the fact is, if you're a prepper, it doesn't matter how many times they say they're going to do this and how many times they don't. You always have to keep these things on the table. When they say that this is not off the table, this should be on the table for everybody, because the next Fantastic Freddy is big, is going to be way bigger than 2001. It's going to be way bigger than, any kind of event that happened in Europe in the 2010s. I mean, this is going to be a huge, huge next event. And you know how I know that? It's history. History repeats itself over and over again, and pretty much every time it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. There's a lot of operations going on right now, and I mean ops. Things that countries are controlling. But as far as nukes go, everybody, this gets old, right? We were always told that there's nukes this, nukes that. Well, it really seems like they are essentially getting us used to this idea, and that very soon we will use a tactical nuke. And the reason I believe that a lot of this is actually going to happen, that we'll see our first tactical nuke go off, a big mushroom cloud, it's going to be a big scene somewhere in the world, is, even the insurance thing that happened, where insurance is looking at their ancient, archaic ways, that if a nuke goes off anywhere in the world, even if it's in the middle of a jungle in Africa, that they will ground every single flight across the planet. And that costs a lot of money. The insurance companies literally are rerouting their kind of strategy for the FAA and for planes and things like that. And that tells me that they are actually expecting some sort of, nuclear event. Not to mention the training, all of the different drills that have been going around on our country. We've been doing all sorts of weird bio drills over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And you see this and you go, I think this is going to happen at some point. So be ready for anything. Don't be afraid of anything, but be ready for anything. Again, they said, we described earlier that the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, or DTRA, has reportedly informed American officials that destroying Iran's heavily fortified Fordow nuclear facility might require the use of a nuclear weapon. Remember, we talked about this. They had doubts about the bunker busters and if they could even get down as far. And even if they get down as far, will it just shake things up? One thing that, hey, Dex, we were talking about on the last short show that we just did about that 5.1 earthquake, and people are questioning if this was a nuke test or if it's some sort of unknown technology by the U.S. or other countries. One thing I didn't think, or I thought about since the first day we talked about this, is like, why do you need to blow anything up if you can shake it up enough? Like, if they were able to shake that facility and make it blow itself up, or make it do so much damage inside the mountain, wouldn't that also contain all of the different bad stuff inside there? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it would. I guess if you thought that if you could shake it, that the entrances would collapse, but that would be no different than just taking out the entrances and letting it collapse. You just rebuild it. I mean, to make a mountain crumble to the ground from an earthquake, that doesn't really happen. I mean, that would be biblical style, right? That would be, 9-0, 10-0 style quake to make a mountain crumble to the ground. So, because they do survive, obviously. And that's part of the beauty of being underground is, while it does shake up, it still stays together. It just moves together.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you must, the leadership of the world must be looking at saying, hey, we know we have this treaty. That's why, a lot of us question if stuff like this is being used, earthquake technology, that they alter this kind of stuff. Now, first of all, if you're one of the few that goes, earthquake, oh, yeah, they can't make earthquake happens. Oh, they're one of those. Just go do your own research on this through government documents. They know how to do this kind of stuff. There's ways to do it. They just said that they wouldn't do it because it was essentially a WMD. It's a weapon of mass destruction, because the fact is they knew how to do it. They knew how to trigger these things. They just don't know how to stop it. So, yeah, with this, I just wonder if they're starting to look at these kind of events. Because look at this. We had space peace, right? Peace and treaty, a peace and space treaty. That's going to garbage in a couple years. I mean, essentially the president is saying, hey, we're putting one of the biggest weapons up into space that you've ever seen. The Golden Dome is literally going to be one of the craziest weapon systems you've ever seen. If it is what they say it is, and if it's going to actually be done by 2028, who knows? But yeah, the bulletin of atomic scientists actually said the United States may destroy the Fordow enrichment plant. It won't make the Iranian nuclear threat go away. That was an opinion by Richard M. Nephew. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking again at those statistics on from the prior article about the penetration, because it had another report about the penetration of that GU, whatever it's called, the GU 57 or whatever, the big bunker, the MOP, the big one, right? That can go through the mountain. Apparently it only goes 60 meters through 5,000 PSI concrete. But when it's moderately hard rock, which is what I would assume a mountain would be, like that mountain range would be, it's only 40 meters, which is 131 feet. And it's continuously been reported it's 300 feet deep. So even if it made it halfway there and then it's got this kinetic explosion that happens, sure, it may, rock the place, but it seems clear that the MOP by itself may not actually do the job. And I guess that's why they keep going back and forth on, will this even work? And I guess that then brings in the question of, do you need a tactical? Because if you put a tactical inside there, you get a much larger explosion. Maybe you still only go 131 feet into the ground because it's, this special casing made of ferro cobalt. That's like 80% of the entire weight of the bomb. It basically maintains its body as it's penetrating through the ground, and then it gets to the stopping point and then it explodes.
That's
So
null and
maybe
void,
with a,
though.
yeah, but maybe with a tactical, the ability to reach the other 150 feet down from a crater would actually work. And I think that's why when they're saying, hey, it's not off the table, because some guy goes on Fox and talking from the White House saying, well, yeah, everybody said that Trump said he wasn't, going to consider a tactical. He goes, that's not true. He goes, the report is that all options are not off, that none of the options are off the table. So that is still on the table.
But
And
it's a
that's why
bunch of
everybody's
bull. It's a bunch of bull because guess what? They said that the tactical, the whole point of it was we have B-2s with this very special missile that we're never going to share with Israel, and that's why we need to get involved. Well, if that very special missile and the B-2 isn't capable to do it, and if they're even talking about a tactical nuke, then okay, Israel has tactical nukes. You see my point? The whole reason that we would have to get involved is because we're the only ones who can do it. Remember, that was being said all last week? Well, if we're now talking about tactical nukes, they can do that. They can blow up 5 of them on top of that mountain and deal with it. You see my point? Like the bunker buster, if it really is now a third or a quarter of the way.
I think they're saying, Adam, I think they're saying the theory is put a tactical nuke in the bunker buster instead of the standard munition that's in there.
See, I heard that they were going to do the bunker busters and do a proceeding where there's going to be 6 missiles in one, and it's going to be after that the tactical nuke will go off right after. It's going to be in quick succession. Boom, 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 boom. They're going to have 1 bunker buster, 2 bunker buster, 3 bunker buster, and have it go down like it's a drill kind of thing. And then the tactical nuke goes and destroys everything. So I just wonder if you're going to use tactical nukes anyways. I mean, wouldn't a tactical nuke also do just horrific damage to even a mountain? I mean, you're talking about force, especially the tactical nukes now. We're not talking about 50, 60 years ago. We're talking about tactical nukes that can put holes in, 25-foot concrete. I just wonder what the heck, they made this whole reasoning of why we need to jump in. And then are they going to somehow undo that reasoning? And then Trump on DNI, Tulsi Gabbard's Iran assessment says she's wrong. Again, President Trump on Friday said his director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was wrong when she testified in March that Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon, marking the second time in a week that the president has dismissed the assessment of the intelligence director he selected. Which I'm actually surprised that Gabbard's saying that, but I'm not. I would like to do a survey too. How many of you, just say yes or no, have you had questions about Tulsi Gabbard in the past in general? Have you had questions about her true motives? Just anything. Have you gotten a gut feeling? Let me know in the chat. I would love to hear it. And I will end up putting that up here. Well, what do you guys think about Tulsi Gabbard? Do you think she's through and through? I've always liked what she says and what she talks about, but I just wonder. Both sides have had so much infiltration. Dex, go ahead.
Well, look, she doesn't have intel, right? She is not intel. She's the leader of. She just got put in that position. So all she has is what that department gives her. And if that department gives her weak intel, she's going to go in March. This is right after she got the position, right? And regurgitate what the people that she's now in charge of tell her. Like, what is she going to do? Pull out some magic intel that she has? She doesn't have any intel. And I'm not trying to be a stand up for her, because I don't really have any skin in the game on whether she's telling the truth or not. But I think what we're hearing is that people are saying, well, now they're going to use this against the administration to say he doesn't even want to listen to his own intelligence community, but he wants to listen to Israel's intelligence community, where Israel's intelligence community tells them, yes, they've got the ability to create a nuke and they're doing it right away. And, Tulsi comes in and right away after she gets her job, the first thing they ask her is, what information do you have on them building it? She says, well, I don't have any information that says they're building it. She says, they're not building anything. That's based on the information given to her. So, maybe she's right. Maybe she's wrong. Maybe that's all they told her. And again, do we think our own intelligence community, after what it's been through for the last, many, many years and decades, is actually going to put forth what it wants to put forth, or what is the truth? And that's not to belittle anyone in the intelligence community. That's more talking about the upper ranks of the intelligence community.
Okay, so This was the interaction between reporters, so you could see how it could be taken out of context. Okay, so it says, let's see here. Let's see, where was that again? It says, when the president arrived in Bedminster, New Jersey on Friday, a reporter asked him, what intelligence do you have that Iran is building a nuclear weapon? It says, your intelligence community has said that there's no evidence that they are at this point. Then, of course, the president says, well, then my intelligence community is wrong. It says, who in the intelligence community said that? And they said, your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. The reporter answered, she's wrong, Mr. Trump said, moving in the next question. President previously dismissed Gabbard's testimony earlier this week on his way back from the G7 summit when he said, I don't care what she said. It says, I think they were very close to having one. So what is going on here? You know, is this something where, again, with Tulsi Gabbard's comments, which, by the way, like Dex said, or early on, or if it's based on this, it sounds more like the president is basing his information straight from Mossad learnings, right? And a lot of people actually think the Mossad's better than our intelligence and that they're creepier and that they are tracking more people than we are, right? But at this point, is the
they're
president
definitely going to tell us what they want us to hear?
That's what I'm
Whether
saying.
it's true or not, they're going to tell us only what they want us to hear.
So is the president fully, going along with this? This is such a hot topic because so many people are now debating, well, not even debating, fighting over to support Israel or not to support Israel. People don't like Netanyahu, or they love Netanyahu, or they support Israel, they don't support Netanyahu. But, with stuff like this, it's like after the WMD situation of Iraq after 2001 and all of that happened and the Patriot Act and all of this, it's like, I guess a lot of us are just really frustrated with, okay, there's intelligence, but, they basically just trust us, bro. I guess after the whole WMD thing in the Middle East, it's kind of like you got to ask your questions. Like, this is our future. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I like to play all sorts of advocates, not the devil's advocate, but I'll play the other side here. Think about this, though. If you think about intelligence communities, how important is Iran building a nuclear bomb to the U.S. intelligence community versus the Israel intelligence community? I think it is much more important to the Israeli intelligence community, and they probably allocate far more head count, far more people count, far more espionage and incursions and other things to try to learn as much as they possibly can about what is happening with Iran's nuclear capabilities than the U.S. does. The U.S. probably says, you know what, we don't really need to because we can find it out from Israel if we need to, and we'll put a few people on it. So at the end of the day, I bet our intelligence on, and this is just my supposition, but our intelligence level on what Iran is really doing is nowhere near as advanced as what Israel's is, because it's in their best interest to absolutely know, because they're the ones being targeted.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear your opinions in the chat. Make sure to put your opinions in the comments as well if you're watching the replay as well. All right. And then we have Russia warns U.S. against military intervention in the Iran-Israel conflict, which, by the way, a lot of people on the subject of Tulsi, she a player, haven't really listened to her. Let's see here. No, hasn't had questions. So yeah, I think it's actually kind of split. I've had questions about her hair streak, pretty wild. Her hair, I always thought she was a beautiful woman. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. But I when she does these videos of her shooting and doing all this stuff, she is a badass. I have no doubts, but I do have doubts just about any people in general, especially when there was a lot of videos popping up. She's starting to really live it big. I don't know if you guys noticed, but she is, now that she's national intelligence director or whatever else, there's lots of rumors she's getting really, really rich. And the salaries for these positions aren't that high. And when I see these people just doing really good investments and just getting super, super rich, that does go both ways. It happens on both sides of the party. I personally have a resistance to trusting any politicians. It doesn't matter what side. If they're saying things I agree with, then I have even more fervor to question what they're saying, because honestly, if they're trying to say something that I agree with, if they're a politician, they're probably saying it just to get me to, lower my defenses and go, okay, sure, I'll do that. Politicians are, I guess, the worst, in my opinion. All of the opinions are the politicians on the right and the left. They just all are a bunch of grandstanders. I guess I feel like my grandpa. My grandpa used to yell at all these guys when Rush Limbaugh show would come on. He would just scream at all of them. And now I understand him. I totally understand what he was yelling at. It's like they're just a bunch of idiots. And they all lie, and they all make up crap. Scientific Lens, nice to see you. Again, Tammy Lee, thank you. And then, by the way, thank you, and thank you. Bound by Mountain says, is North Carolina bound? Thankful to be home this weekend with my beautiful wife, Nikki. So stoked to get your live show. Thanks, Adam, Dex, and our mods. Again, only use I use Mountain Situational Awareness. I use Rockin' Forever Mountain Situational Awareness. Hey, Bound by Mountains, it's nice to see you. I have friends that just moved to North Carolina, and they love it there. Again, that's funny because my friend's name is Nikki, and her husband, they just got married over there. But yeah, they love it out there. And then thank you, ? Awesome. Trinity and Ice Cube, Neutrino, that and Antarctica equals EQs. Did Trinity do a video on that? I'll have to check that out. She digs deep into a whole bunch of different subjects. You can find her on our friends page. Josh Williams, thank you for sending out 5 badges. That is super appreciated. Rapture Ready says, Bible prophecy is happening right before our eyes. Soon, Damascus will cease to be a city. Rapture Ready, I hope that that is not happening yet. I'm looking up 25. Thank you again for not only joining the fam, but thank you for the super. And then Vic says, long time since I caught a live. Hope is all is well, Adam, Dex, and all. Been through the worst time of my life. House damaged bad from the hurricane. Now divorced. Now the world. Sorry to be so personal. That's all right, Vic. You've been here since the beginning. Vic, there's a lot of people that care about you here, and I appreciate you staying here and even checking in every once in a while. Vic, you've been here since like 2019 or something, or before. I don't know. It's been a long time. So we all care about you, Vic, and I'm sorry. But remember, time heals all. And as far as divorces go, I would jump back up on the horse. And just watched a horrible clip from one of those court shows of this divorce case that just went super wrong, and they ended up jumping over the tables at each other. It's like, if it gets to that point, just you're better off without people like that around you. All right, and let's see here. Let's go into the next piece. Russia warns U.S. against military intervention in Iran and Israel war. So you have, of course, Russia on Thursday warned the United States not to take military action against Iran amid speculation whether Washington would enter the war alongside Israel. Israel launched an unprecedented wave of strikes of Iran. Of course, we all watched that. Moscow is one of Iran's most important allies, with the two deepening military cooperation and inking a strategic partnership agreement just months ago. And people forget about that. That was a strategic military alliance that was inked 3 months or 4 months before all of this went down. What is going to happen from that? Everybody asks, is Russia going to jump in on this? I don't think Russia has the power to prevent or protect them. They've got enough on their own plate. But as well, I wonder what's going on with China and what's going on with North Korea and what's going on with the other people in the same sphere. And we would like to particularly warn Washington against military intervention in the situation, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova told reporters. U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday that he was considering joining Israel's strikes on Iran. Says, I may do it, I may not do it. He says, nobody knows what I'm going to do, was the rest of that comment. And it's like, we have an absolute circus going on right now in the world right now. Look at what is happening. I mean, we're partially living idiocracy, and we're also living in, oblivion. It's absolutely getting nuts. with this being said, they keep throwing out these threats. I'm sure, like myself, many of you are like, they say this kind of stuff every day. But at some point, as preppers, we look at this and we go, okay, well, then we need to be prepared just in case. And I don't think Russia's the only, Russia's not the scariest out of all of them. It's Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela. All of them combined is what scares me. So, yeah. And then, Dex, do you want to go over the internet blackout? And we talked about this when it first started, but what's the update?
Well, it's still out, because they turned it off. They turned it off for threats to prevent any cyber attacks on the country. Iran did. So they have been without internet now for half of this entire conflict, which is pushing on a week now. They say 80 million. I think the population is 90 million, or at least in 2023 it was, of Iran. But nonetheless, that's a lot of people without the internet, without communication. They're not getting. Imagine you're living in a city that is being struck day after day, and you have no way of getting any information now. You have no way of communicating even with your loved ones that are nearby, and connecting with them over the internet like you normally would have. You've got to find alternate forms of communication, assuming you still have cell phone connections. Maybe that works, but look, everybody's in the dark. They're in the dark on the news. They're in the dark on warnings. They're in the dark on communication with anyone else on the internet in that entire country, and it's still that way.
Yeah, that would be very, very scary. We don't realize how much we've found, gotten dependent on the internet, but this is no different in Iran. I mean, this is a modern city that literally has just lost all communications through the internet. I mean, that's insane. They can't just go onto their computer and find out what's going on. Yeah, that's a very scary scenario. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, and imagine like the difference to say how Russia did it. Russia decided to build their entire internet, or rebuild their entire internet, so they could shut off the outside world, but leave it up. In other words, they can leave their internet up, call it an intranet if you want to, an internal internet, where they could still run services. They could still do support. Where obviously in this scenario, it doesn't sound like Iran did anything like that. They just said, pull the plug on the whole thing. Nobody has internet now. Where Russia said, hey, what we're going to do is, if we need to pull the plug, we'll just pull the plug from the outside world to protect ourselves, but we could still use the network ourselves for our own communication.
Yeah, and obviously they foresaw things like this happening. Russia can essentially turn off any information that they want, whereas Iran can't. And also, they're keeping them in the dark. They also say that they're possibly doing this so that bad guys in Iran can't communicate, so they can't do things like Operation Spiderweb, what happened in Russia. But at the same time, is this something that they did as a defensive thing? Or is this something that nobody's claiming and they actually took, this ability out? This is a horrible thing to have happen to your country. No matter what country you are, losing the internet right now in 2025 is a massive, massive strategic L. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and this reminds me, Funny Doers International said, hey, they did it to prevent the civilian uprising. Well, that's a very good point, because we've talked about the fact that, there's this idea of regime change, this idea of revolution. There is a significant, large portion of the society there that is not happy with the way the government runs and the rules that are coming from the theocratic side of the government, the Ayatollah, and the demands. The
late Shah, son.
Yeah. No, the people that are there.
Yeah, but the late Shah's son, they put out a message on the internet, and the day after this, all went down.
Maybe try to keep.
He said, "Rise up with us."
Yes, I get what you're saying. Okay, sorry, but the whole idea of maybe trying to prevent organization, like a no king style organization happening inside of Iran while this is going down, because now is the opportunistic time for the citizens there to rally if they were to want to do something to change their government, because they're in a weakened position, they're in a weakened state. So that comment again from I lost it now, but Funny Doers International, that's a good comment. really is. Like, think about that type of protection is the other reason they shut the internet down.
Yeah, that's a incredible thought as far as, we don't even think about that angle. And then I could see them, obviously organizing too. They probably have sleeper cells there that are, if other countries, they have U.S. sleeper cells there. They have people organizing. They have CIA. CIA went to the Middle East with CIA agents in 72 flights. Those 72 flights could have had cash in them. They could have been loading up local militias or loading up local agents so they could pay people off and cause chaos and strife. Before we move on, make sure to go check out My Patriot Supply. Again, it's one of the most affordable ways to go get yourself freeze-dried food. This is food that can last 25 plus years. So make sure to go check it out. It's, again, marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, it is an awesome, 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 affordable way to get yourself prepped up. I mean, we're talking about 3 months is cheaper than some of the ones that you would get a 1 month kit for. So again, go check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, and then we have China criticizes UK warship patrol in the Taiwan Strait. Again, everybody's forgetting about China. We never forget about China. China's military has called a British warship's recent passage through the Taiwan Strait a disruptive act of intentional provocation that undermines peace and stability. The British Royal's HMS Space Patrol on Wednesday was part of a long-planned deployment that was in accordance with international law, which they always say. They always give their regular line. It says the patrol, the first by the British naval vessel in 4 years, comes as the UK's carrier strike group arrives in the region for a deployment that will last several months. It is kind of funny to me that, again, we leave to go to the Middle East and our allies keep replacing us. Dex, have you noticed that? Every time we've taken our carrier strike groups out of the South China Sea, we've had our allies either from Europe or from Japan or from Germany or from somewhere else essentially go in and take our place.
Exactly.
So it's kind of odd because, originally I thought, Europe is going to take care of NATO, this and this and that, and we're going to take care of China. Right now, we're over handling the Middle East, and our allies are there in case something goes down in the South China Sea. Again, China considers Taiwan its territory. A spokesman for the China's Navy criticized the UK for publicly hyping up the journey of the HMS Spey and said that the UK claims were a distortion of legal principles and an attempt to mislead the public. Such actions are international provocations, disrupt the situation, undermine peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. It says it added that it monitored the HMS Spey towards its journey in through the strait. The Chinese troops will resolutely counter all threats and provocations. They throw these huge, these big kind of threat words out. It must be crazy that they have to say the same lines. Such actions are international provocations that disrupt. It's almost like legal speak, right? They say it every time. And on their defensive side, they go, well, we're following all international law, blah, blah, blah. Or I guess that's more our side. We're always saying, well, we're doing the freedom of navigation, and we're always following the laws of international travel. And China always says the same thing. This is a provocation. This is, something like this. People are going to say, insert here, this is, any one of these could turn into an escalation. That's the truth, but at the same time, I'm more looking at, what is the strategy right now? They've got Britain and other countries going into the South China Sea while we're over at the Middle East. It just shows you how they keep swapping, and I've noticed this is a pattern. Every time we leave this gap over there, our allies have filled it. So it does look like the system is kind of working, right? You do have to, there's a lot of badass systems in our military in place. So it is just kind of funny because we don't really notice it, but when we leave somewhere, our allies usually fill our gap. And then the USS Nimitz carrier strike group will arrive in the Mideast waters this weekend. So this is also something, it's Friday now. On Saturday and Sunday, things almost always go down at Friday. Well, people are at, barbecuing, or they're forgetting, they're taking the weekend off, they're, de-stressing. That's usually when all the crazy stuff goes down. And now this weekend, the Nimitz, which is also supposed to be decommissioned, is now going to be arriving in the Middle East. So it's actually a pretty big deal that it is it's on its last legs, and it's there because now people are wondering, is something going to happen to this ship? Is some sort of huge event going to happen? And then they'll, of course, be able to, two huge carriers with one stone, take it out, decommission it, and have it go boom, and then start a war. That's the kind of Fantastic Freddy people are worried about. Dex, we have that graph, but what do you think about carriers leaving South China Sea and going to the Middle East, especially on their last run?
Well, it's ideal for Xi. I mean, look, the best time. Think about that. What's the best time for Xi to attack Taiwan? When America is distracted with other wars. So we're distracted in Europe. We're distracted and we're depleted from our previous administration and munitions in Europe, right? So we're having to rebuild all that. We sent tons and tons and tons of equipment over there. So we're worse off there. We're trying to recruit. Recruitment's been great, but we got to train, so it's going to take time. So it's not like the military's rebuilt. And oh, by the way, now we're getting involved in the Middle East. So yeah, all signs are like now is the best time than ever to consider taking Taiwan. Any time that we're weakened is the best time. So the longer they wait, the stronger we get and rebuild. Obviously, this current administration is not one to let that slide. So the spending and the investment and the rebuilding of our military is going to happen in the future. Every day we get better and better. So they're going to look at this as an opportunity. And to me, it's sort of that obvious point. Hey, you're moving assets from our front door to go fight in the Middle East. We'll go do it because that just makes it easier for us to take Taiwan. But it also lends ourselves back to the point, Adam, that we've talked about on the show. I want to say one of the first to talk about it if they first moved the ship is the fact that this thing is on its last leg. It is ripe for a Fantastic Freddy. I'd hate to say that something like that could happen. I don't think they would sink it, but you could easily see a major strike or something happening to it that would then be used to win the hearts and minds of America, to win the agreement of the politicians in America, and the administration and all, to say, yeah, we got to go take care of those people. They just did this to our ship.
Yeah, I don't have a gut feeling about this one, and I don't have a gut feeling of a Fantastic Freddy. Usually there's some sort of just itch underneath, but we'll see. I'm always questioning everything. I'm one of the first ones to say when I think some sort of Fantastic Freddy is going to happen. For some reason, I don't feel like that's the case in this one, but that's just my gut feeling. It definitely looks like it could be. I mean, the situation right now, it looks like it's prone to light on fire. All right, and then thank you, chat. Again, James McGowan, Cherry Boo. It's so funny, Dex, did you know, obviously the Gen Z has like their own language, right? Have you heard the Gen Z talk? Like,
don't all the gens have that?
Not like,
yeah, I don't,
not like
I
this.
don't know.
No,
yeah,
no,
I don't
no.
know their.
They've
I don't know their weird.
They've said it's a
stuff.
language. They literally have enough replacement words that it can be categorized as its own language. They call it Gen Z Alpha. And I've heard people say this, and they say but chat, but they say it in real life. So they're hanging out with their friends and they're saying but chat. What they're saying, and it's referencing right here, like we're streaming right now, and you're talking to your chat. They use it as talking to their friends. So like they're sitting with friends, or like but chat. That's an actual thing. They say it all the time. Vibing and all of these things. There was a professor that went to this high school, great clip. He ends up studying the language, and he's a language professor doing this presentation for his school. You guys, some of you may have seen this, but he essentially goes into the school and says, I'm going to do the rest of my speech in Gen Z Alpha, and he starts talking like a Gen Z, and the high school goes wild. But what's crazy is my 19-year-old knows this language, and my 10-year-old is starting to get this. And it's not like, we started to see, like, we shorten stuff, like, in my opinion, was IMO and be right back, BRB. But now they have a whole language based on being internet children. Like, understand that. The reason why we came up with BRB and things is just because we didn't want to type. Most of us were hunter and peckers. So like we didn't want to type a full thing out, so we shortened things. Then they started shortening things that didn't need to be shortened, but now they've elongated things. Like Gen Z Alpha is not more efficient. It's actually horribly just stupid. But this is a whole language. And my point to this is it is really crazy to see that these kids are not educated in history, not educated in math, don't know how to write cursive, can't read a clock on the wall unless you teach them at home, which I did all my kids, and cursive. They have some of the worst stats here in the United States. It's like, where the hell is our world going if our youth are just absolutely going down the garbage can? It really, 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 really makes you wonder. But I just thought it was funny. People, they're saying this in real life, but chat. I'm like, what the hell is that? If you guys have teenagers, then you probably already know. No cap. Yeah. No lies, right? More Riz though. Yeah. Low key. Nah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is so freaking, we only, as older people, we only know a few. Like there's thousands. I've heard my daughter talk with her friends and I can't understand a single damn thing that they're talking about. I can guess kind of, but then I'll guess and they're like, no, that's totally wrong. I mean, it's just insane. Dex, you're lucky because your kids are like beyond that age, right? None of them...
They know that stuff, but they're not that. Yeah, they're 25 plus, or 24 plus. But yeah, but they do know that. I've heard the no cap from them. I've heard things like that. Now that you say it, but I don't know. To me, it was like there's 4 or 5 of them. There wasn't like it wasn't an entire secret language. Like it was sit around and talk, and I didn't understand what they were saying.
I still don't know what skibbity means. I know that there's Skibbity Toilet, that weird show. This generation has grown up on the internet, and it has changed how they talk. You're so Sigma, Marf.
Well, how about
I hope that's good.
Isn't Bet one of them?
I'm sorry. Did I call you something bad? Skibbity. Oh, I called you Skibbity. I'm sorry. What was that?
A Bet.
Bet?
Is that one of them? Bet.
No,
like
I think that's older.
Is that older?
No, I think they use it again.
Use that too. They say bet, like meaning yes or something like that.
Oh, yeah. You're probably right. I have heard bet. I don't know. There's so many more too. Sigma is good. Oh, Skibbity is bad. Sigma is good. Okay. They're speaking in code. No, I think that somebody's right here. Sean C says, idiocracy is becoming increasingly common among the young. Everybody's wearing Crocs around, which again, I don't disagree with. And they're coming up with this language like, oh, ow, my balls, nuts, Skibbity Toilet. I mean, they're literally saying like, my vibing low key is Skibbity. Like, we are getting stupider. And there's stats to prove this. We've did a show and we showed you the since 2011, something turned and the IQ of human beings are going down. I wonder why. There's a bigger thing beyond, beneath that we need to start really asking, like, is the internet, is the computers good? Maybe we need the lights to go off for a minute. Inquiring Mind says, rock on, dude. You won't hear anybody say that anymore. But again, rock on as well, Inquiring Minds. Thank you for the support. Axel, thank you. Bet is yes or cool or agree. Thank you, Axel. White Roses, thank you. Again, Shirley Millward, thank you, everybody. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Ohio, that's one of the words.
OHIO, is it?
Yeah, it's a memeified way to describe something weird or cursed.
Oh, that's messed up. That's not... Yeah. No, we need to take that back. OHIO. Just keep it.
And by the way, you can ask chat to tell you what Gen Z Alpha is or Gen Alpha slang. Apparently it knows it.
I know.
I got to learn.
No, there's a lot of people here with teenagers that are learning this crap, and it's stupid. Now I'm so glad I'm not going through this alone. And then, guys, check out Bug Out. This is our recommendation for a solar generator. If you're going to get a solar generator, obviously you can get anywhere from small to just giant generators. This one is actually, you can't see it, but this is a bigger unit. The one by itself has 1.61 kilowatt hours. This is my recommendation for a high-capacity solar generator. This thing is actually going to be able to do most of what you need it to do. So again, go to marfooglenews.com/bugout. The coolest thing is each one of these, when you get this, it is going to be EMP Shield protected. Again, all packages include the EMP Shield protection. Go to marfooglenews.com/bugout. Again, this is a direct partnership with, again, Grid Down and with EMP Shield. So it is a very, very, very good deal as far as how this goes, because it is protected as well. It is high capacity. You're talking about if you get one with an XP, you've got over 4,000 kilowatt hours. So just an incredible, incredible unit. It's incredibly smartly made. It is tough as a tank. And again, you can hook it up to solar, or you can charge it from your wall in record timing. Like it just could not believe how fast this thing charged. And that's mostly too because it has a built-in charger. The cord is just simply put right into the back there. It also has a 30 amp port, so you can plug it right into plug the RV right into it. Again, if you have an RV, this could be your portable power source. It is incredible. If you've had other generators, this is why we recommend this or other affiliates that we've had, is because we know that they're front-loaded in the U.S., that we know that they don't have backdoors from China. They don't have cellular radios in them. Again, these are not going to go off on you during an event. If you're buying from Amazon or any of those places, even if it says America best, best American generator, yes, 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 or something on it, I would highly recommend you do your research, because most of those companies, they are actually just fronts for a company that is not only all of the battery tech is made in China, but they are loaded and softwared in China by a Chinese company and a Chinese front. This is not. You are going to get everything that is put together. There's certain things you have to get from China. They have a monopoly on some of the battery technology and the resources. But as far as this goes, it is front-loaded. You know that you're not going to get in trouble, that it's not going to turn off on you during a war. So go to marfooglenews.com/bugout and make sure to use the code MARF. Thank you, guys. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, Inquiring Minds. It looks like you took that top spot at the last minute. Thank you so much for the super. Kimbria, thank you so much for being a member for 2 years now. It says, have a wonderful weekend, fam. Say thanks, MMD. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, because I will be doing updates on the weekend if anything bad happens or anything crazy. Oing for boomer, what for swag or for swang? Was boomer for swang? Man, there were so many cool words back in our day, and I bet you in 10 years when the lights get turned out, they're all going to come back, because they need to. Our slang was the best slang. Shwing. Dex, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Peace out, my Rizzlers. Big W for Dex. Y'all slayed it. For scribbity vibes only, no Ohio nonsense. Catch y'all later. Stay mewing and bet.
You totally had Grok make that for you, didn't you?
Absolutely.
There was no way you did that well. Okay, thank you guys. Have a good day. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.